everybody. We're back. And today I've got not just an incredible guest, but I've got someone who's a dear friend. And I'm going to blow my little friend away right now because he probably doesn't know this. But he and I are coming up to our anniversary. He doesn't know this because I did a little research and we're going on knowing each other almost 9 years, almost 10 years. And I know this for a fact because he invited me to his incredible combine camp, April 18th, almost 10 years ago. And I have the date in my head. Today, I have not only an astute colleague, but a dear friend of mine from Alberta, Canada. I have the one and only Mr. Steve Adams from the Inside Edge hockey program. Steve-O, how's it going up north? I'm so happy you're not shoveling snow. Is that correct?
Yes, the snow has left us for almost 10 straight days.
Oh my God.
But I got a question for you though.
Give it.
Do you remember how we first contacted each other? Do you remember that?
No, I am so gonna owe you dinner. I think, and I could be wrong. My wife tells me that at least once a day. I think I reached out to you via LinkedIn.
No, I reached out to you via LinkedIn because I was looking for somebody to talk to a couple of players.
Yes, dear. You're right again. You're right,
Yes.
dear. I owe you dinner.
Yes.
I owe you. Okay, now, here we go. Coming right back at you.
Yes.
I think you're going to win this game. What was I wearing when we met?
Oh, well, if you don't know Dr. Jason Galea, the only way to actually, you got to drink him in really with his attire. He was wearing, I believe it was red pants or the orange pants or the green pants.
Oh my God.
I've seen a grown man wear those colors. I didn't even think they were made for human usage, but there they were being worn by a man that wanted to talk in front of kids. It was highly questionable. It had a lot of emails, but seemed to go well.
Oh my God.
Back and well enough that we invited you back. So
I can't believe this. So for those people who are going to be seeing and listening to our pod today, I got to tell you, everyone, this is like I think taping number 20, and if I take all of the get-togethers I've had so far, I haven't laughed as hard as I just did right now. And you know, I can honestly say the guy I'm interviewing today, I truly love. He's one of my closest friends on the planet. I love him to death. And I'm gonna toot your horn because you are horrible at it. And
yes.
I'm just gonna say a few things. One of the things that's so incredible about what Steve and the Inside Edge hockey program provide kids in central Canada is he and his colleague work their tail off all year long to pull together resources for kids. For many, many, many years, and this is how I got in touch with him and in tune with him in his program, he would create these incredible combines for kids. And he would bring out coaches and assistant coaches from all over the US as well as Canada to help local kids. And if you saw what he put together, a workout combine, seminar combine, coaching information combine, parent information combine, on ice practices with coaches, plus games where every single game was being coached from both benches by at least one, if not two, Division I programs. It was incredible. Like nothing like this had ever existed in my upbringing. And what he basically did, for those of you who don't know the world of hockey, is he technically brought water to the desert. He brought water to the desert, where in this particular part of Canada, it's hard. It's hard to go to if you're a scout on a limited budget, because it's in the middle of nowhere. And it used to be that the peripheries of the country is what got all the attention: British Columbia, Toronto, that kind of stuff. And what Steve was able to do is help so many kids in so many different ways. And not only were kids attaining opportunities for colleges, but even younger kids who would come, they would get scouted and seen at a younger age, and improve their opportunities in their own hometown. And he's a big bear of a man who's a really big teddy bear, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's why I love him. And I'm just saying all of that, and I don't care who of our coaching friends see this, they all can bite me. And when I have them on my podcast, I'm going to rip them down to shreds too. So don't you worry.
Good, as you should.
So when Steve is not working with athletes in the world of ice hockey and helping them move on, and helping create programs which give them exposure, one of the things that he does is he runs one of the top, if not the top, training facility for young up and coming athletes. And obviously his specialty is hockey, but if you know the know, you need to know, like they know, that the Inside Edge is where you go to get trained and get moved on, because not only are you getting the expertise and coaching and off-ice training, but there are so many Division I and elite professional teams that know Steve and his reputation, that when they call and check in on a player, or they call and they're looking for something, this is the guy that they go to. So, I often get asked, what's the key? Who do you know? How does it work? If I want to move my kid on, blah, 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 blah. Well, the key and what you need to know is you need to know a guy like him. So having you on today to educate parents and kids, and maybe even coaches as well, about how you do what you do, I think is so valuable. And this is great. So how are things for you, buddy? How are things in Alberta right now with this thing called COVID? How's that affecting you?
Well, it's completely shut down my day-to-day business. So rinks are closed, my facility's closed. So you try and keep kids busy online with programs and things to do. I'm not a computer tech guy, so I'm not a huge fan of online training. I think it works for some kids, but for a lot of kids it doesn't work. So we've tried to put some basic stuff together to keep kids active. A lot of yoga, with breathing exercises, some meditation stuff, and some workout stuff. But everybody's got different weights, some people have stuff, some people don't. So you try and give them a basic general way of just keeping physically active. We're not terrible in Alberta. Certainly where we are is it doesn't have a big impact right now. But so we're slowly starting to open up our economy. So I'm hoping that we're going to open up here in a few weeks. I don't know like in my business, I'm not sure what hockey's going to look like in terms of arenas and summer ice and when seasons are going to start for players. So one of the biggest things I'm working on with players is making sure they have people to talk to, right? Like teenagers don't talk, and primarily I deal with teenagers. So a lot of teenagers don't want to talk to mom and dad. So I end up dealing a lot with kids that are really trying to figure out the rest of their lives. And these guys are term limited because you only have until a certain amount to get your scholarship or go to play in the Western League or whatever it is. And they're freaked out and they're worried about it. And then, with my players, they think about it all the time. And it's like schoolwork and this. And so it's trying to keep them not necessarily just positive, just focusing on them. You can't control this. All you can control is how ready you are for whenever it happens. And that's probably the biggest thing I'm working on these kids to figure out is all you can do is keep one of the things I think all kids, and I'm guilty of it too, is you're incredibly, because I can't go to work. It's in creating incredibly bad habits, sleep patterns, eating habits. It's really dysfunctional, and that's what I really get worried about with players, is that they're out of their routine. Like I have a 8, 9-year-old and an 11-year-old and 12-year-old, and they're not in school, right? They're not with their friends. They're not doing things. So again, they're staying up a little bit later, getting up a little bit earlier. Like so you're trying to create some form of routine,
Mm-hmm.
but that's really hard right now. And I think everybody's guilty of it. And you're trying to help kids, but you're just trying, basically from my end, I'm just trying to let kids know, you got a problem, give me a call. We'll work through it. And, because this is something where a lot of these kids haven't been through something like this, right? They haven't been on any kind of shutdown. Like the only thing I can really equate this to is 9/11, right? Something that earth stopping, right?
Yeah.
But this has lasted longer, right? And so a lot of kids haven't been through something like this. So they don't understand it and they don't know, and it's all negative. And now it's all on Twitter and it's all, oh, this person's lying. And so social media plays a huge negative role into this. And, so I feel bad for kids, because we haven't set them up well to deal with stuff like this. So
it's amazing what you're talking about. Like you pulled in some incredible points. Like, I mean, all that you can control is how ready you are, which is phenomenal, the way you put that. I mean, it's not only accurate, honest, but it's empowering. But when you talk about, what kids are going through, it's really scary, because I can't tell you how many coaches I've talked to, program directors I've talked to at high school, college, and they're lost. They're It's like, I know that you're well aware of some of the programs that exist in the NCAA that have been going back and forth with the idea of, do we bring our seniors back?
Mm-hmm.
Do we bring seniors back? And yesterday alone, I'll tell you something that you don't know. I was talking to an Olympic hopeful, and she technically just graduated from Berkeley, and her goal is to be trying out for her third time for the Olympics now in 2021. Would have been this year, but 2021. And we started down the road of, would you consider going back for your senior year? And it's interesting, right? Because the athletes, they focus in on that. Yeah, maybe I can really dial it up, and who knows what that could do for me, right? But what's missing in all of that is the reality of, are you ready to sign up for 4 more classes, 5 more classes, or 10 more? Are you willing to do that, right? And you and I have a mutual colleague who coaches at a very prestigious institution in the world of engineering. And, in talking to him, his response is, well, how do I tell a guy who's ready to make an incredible salary out of college as an engineer, put that on the shelf and come back and play another year? Like, well, how do you do that, right?
Yep.
And I guess my question to you would be, because you're in this, because you're talking to coaches weekly about helping their programs, how is it even feasible for them to talk that way? Because if you bring a guy back and you're bringing in guys, now you've got a calamity of mess of guys now. Potentially, your team roster isn't 26 anymore. It could be, I don't know, 32. I don't know, right? So, like, is it even feasible to do that?
It is. Some schools carry large rosters. So it's going to depend on each school and where they are with money.
Got it.
And what they want to offer. I mean, if you're, like if you're graduating at Harvard or Princeton or, whatever your school, Milwaukee School of Engineering, and you've got a $97,000, $150,000 a year job, yeah, you should probably take it. But some guys are going to graduate with communications, right? Which is fine, but they don't really know what they're going to be in the next year, So it's like, okay, well, I can come back, take some extra courses, right? Do the minimum. I still have a decent, if they have decent money offered, great. And then, but I maybe win a national championship at North Dakota or Wisconsin or Penn State or Michigan or whatever school it is that feels they got a shot at it before maybe this kid that he gets an extra year of hockey where maybe he wasn't going to be an NHL guy or an AHL guy or a high end European player. Like I understand it, and coaches get greedy too, right? Like I can bring this guy back. I can defer one of my 18-year-olds to play another year of college or another year of junior before he comes in. And like I have a player right now that he's had a scholarship since he's been 14, 15 years old, and they wanted to bring him in this year. But when this all happened, they're going to bring back some guys that they thought they were going to lose to pro hockey early, but they didn't sign. They want to play another year. And so they just told this kid, we want you to stay back another year, right? We want you to stay. And then when we're going to graduate out all of these guys, there's going to be a bigger role for you to play. And you get an extra year of juniors. So don't rush, which I think is important. So I think it just comes down to how close you feel your team is, right? How close is your team? You're not just going to bring back guys for the sake of bringing them back, but if you could bring back a kid that's one of the top players in the country, of course you should bring him back, right? If he's not signing in the NHL, right? And if he's a really good college player, but maybe not an elite level pro player, absolutely bring him back, right?
I guess my big question with that, right, is like you give an incredible perspective as that of a GM. Like when I hear you talk, I hear general manager, and because what you did in at least 2 out of the 3 statements you made there a few seconds ago, is you're saying like if you got a shot, then do this, and that's what the top GMs and presidents of teams do. They assess what they have and say, okay, is it really worth making that extra run, that out of the box run, that out of the box maneuver, right? I guess I wonder what happens when you have that coach who's been with a guy or a guy, meaning guy or girl, in the city with somebody for 4 years.
Yep.
And maybe 5 years, because maybe the person redshirted, right?
Yep.
This was going to be their big year, and now it's gone.
Yep.
Do you think with your head or your heart at that opportunity, that moment, right? Do you bring back?
Yeah, but I think that goes to the player-coach relationship. Like is it? And are you close, right? Like, what are you going? Like, if you're a player, what are you going back for? Right?
There you go.
Like, are you just going back because you can take 2 classes and the old Matt Leinart took 11 a.m. ballroom dancing his senior year, like his 5th year, right? Instead of going in the draft, right? So it depends. Like if you're on a really powerhouse team, you got really good recruits coming in, you're a really high-end guy, you're going to get more ice time with even better players or a deeper roster. Or are you going back because you just want to just hang out and be with the guys and you don't want to start life? And there's guys like that. There's girls like that. Everybody's like that.
Yeah.
I get a year if your scholarship's good. Like I had a player's mom call me and she was talking to me and we were talking kind of about schools and everything. And she says, yeah, one of my friends, she's a Canadian girl that has a scholarship in one of the schools in Alabama on golf. And because her last season's canceled, she's already graduated, and they came back with her and said, listen, you can come back for next year, but it's going to run you $40,000 US a year or for the year, right? So $40K. So with the Canadian dollar, with what it is, add 30% to that, right? So now you're looking at 60,000, something like that, right? And when it's all said and done, and she's like, I'm not playing in the LPGA. I'm not good enough, but I've graduated. I have a good degree. I want to move on with my life, and I don't want to put my parents $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in the hole just so I can do this again. But she loved her school. She loved the coaches. She loved everything, but it was time to move on.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to that point where every player is going to be a little different. Every coach is going to think a little bit differently, right? And it will depend on the relationship you have with the coach, and it's going to depend on the relationship you have with your school. Like, are you really tied into that school? Some people are, some people aren't. So it's really every player, every coach is going to have a different philosophy on what they want to do. And I think but I think it's something where players got to realize, what am I giving up by staying? And then what am I giving up by going? Right?
Yeah, yeah. I just feel so bad for the athletes in this scenario. I really do. I really do. And I feel for the coaches as well, because to me, they're one and the same, right? Because especially if you've had a player that's been there for so long, and how those conversations go, right? Next year's going to be your year. Next year you're going to be our star. You're going to be our guy, right? And then it doesn't happen, right? It just doesn't happen, and it's like, and you feel like you've made that commitment because you have that relationship with that athlete. Like you said, I can't even imagine the pain of what that's like. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't envy them.
No, and it's going to be hard, and it's such a huge, important 4 or 5 years of your life. But there's also a point where college, university is supposed to mature you, so you should be able to now look at it past the fun of it and go, okay, I'm going to come back, but I'm going to get half of my master's done, or I'm going to take extra classes in something else I'm interested in. But if you're just going back to win some games and put up some numbers and, take some crap classes, if I'm a coach, I don't want that, right? Like, I want kids that want to be focused in. Now, if you're going to give me 75 points next year, yeah, I'll probably take underwater penny stacking for all I care. I can do it, right? Yeah. But if you're going to be a good locker room guy, senior, that's going to be, half a point a game guy, and you might be a little bit more of a disruption to my seniors and juniors and even freshmen, sophomores. My underclassmen guys, I would really question, do I really want that?
Right.
So again, it's going to go on the relationship. It's going to go with where your recruiting class is at. Are you a school that recruits older kids or younger kids? Like, there's a whole bunch of things that are going to go into that every school is going to be a little bit different. And then, but I think the other big one will be, how much money's left over for you to come back, right?
Well, and therein lies the big question, right? Which kind of got this ball rolling down the hill for us, right? Because there's a limit to everything. There's a limit to everything in terms of what they can and can't provide, right? Now, for me, I never really understood the whole budget thing, because I've always looked at it as a former college professor myself. What's adding another chair to the classroom?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, like how schools can make that boast about that, it just makes my head spin. But to me, where I do see, the money going out is, you got to put this person up in residency.
Mm-hmm.
You got to feed the person, right? Like those little tidbits there as a program director. I know those costs are not imaginary. Right? Like, if we put you in dorm 5 in room 321, that's coming out of our budget, right? Yeah. So you got to pay for that.
Yep.
How many of those rooms can you afford, right? And
well, and in hockey, it's even worse because you got to build an arena, right?
Now you're going down a different rabbit hole down there. You're totally right.
Yeah.
And the cost to run. The cost to run.
It's run 24/7. It's not a football field where you just turn off the lights, right? Yeah. So you're running the refrigeration unit, and you got staff, maintenance, right? There's a lot of moving parts to it, right? And so it gets expensive. It gets hard because you're not making money in hockey. Like, you're not. like even the best programs in hockey, you're not like North Dakota does fine, Michigan does fine, but 99% of them are not making, there's not a big TV deal, right? It's not college football, it's not college basketball, right? It's a limited sport with limited viewership, so it makes it very difficult, right? And so it's a lot of cost to run that, because you can have a football field with a soccer field on it. You can have a soccer field with a lacrosse field on it. You can have multi-purpose stuff, but here you can't. You're kind of stuck, right?
Well, and this is one of the reasons why I was so excited to get you on to talk today, because you have such a unique perspective on things. You're in the trenches, one-on-one, face-to-face, ear-to-ear with top athletes that are going all around the country, that are going to be going professional, some even to Europe. Like you're there. You're also right in the middle of dealing with coaches at the most elite level that every parent would dream would one day send a letter to their kid or an email to the kid. You're in the mecca of it all. And in many ways, my joke behind your back, and I can only tell you this because we're 5,000 miles away, I know you can't hurt me today, is you're the AT&T operator. And my joke every time we get together and guys talk and they say things about how awesome you are, I just tell him like he's the AT&T operator. Like he's got more connections with people, like the old circuit board, switchboard that we saw when we were kids. That's you. And I guess in saying this to you, right, knowing as much as you do, what do you think about the season ahead? What like I can't even imagine, because you're also dealing with minor hockey too, minor sports, right? So like you're not just the bus shelter for the elite guy. You're also the terminal for all the young ones coming in before they disperse outward. So like, what do you think's going to happen now, moving forward?
Well, first off, I've been called a lot of A words before. Awesome is not usually one of them, but we'll move on.
PG here, coach. It's PG.
I get called that one more at home and actually everywhere else I go. So, but that's the thing. Like I talk to coaches every day at all different levels across Western Canada and the U.S. And quite frankly, nobody knows.
Yeah.
And Washington State just came in. They're not having any large crowd gatherings until like that's banned all of September, and they may be able to walk it back. And I just read that the NCAA as a whole can't dictate to schools when they can open. Like it's up to each university college president. So, and their board, I would imagine. So that's like, can you have, like if you're in the Big Ten in hockey, can you have 3 schools open and the other ones are shut down? Like nobody knows. Like it's crazy, and so you're stuck. But this is where we get back to the players, and they don't know, right? Like I got a kid that's still doing classes at his university in Boston, and and it's like he's still online, and he was basically told that as it stands right now, I don't expect to be here till January, right? Because you can't have school sports until all the kids can be on campus, right? So what's the point of having them on campus? You can't have them at a game, right?
Well, like buddy, from your lips to God's ears, something you don't know is this morning, a conversation I had is with a guy who's a program director for one of the millions of programs the National Hockey League puts up. And this guy and I have known each other for about a year, and he's right in the middle of it, this poor guy. Like he lives in Manhattan. And I asked him, the question of, hey, has this thing affected you? And his mom, who's 80 years old, she contracted the COVID. And she also has some form of respiratory issue before all of this. She got in, she was in there for a couple of days, and knock on wood, thank God, she got out. And she's home and she's doing well. Thank God. So here's a guy who's working for the National Hockey League, and he's in the middle, like he's downtown New York City working at the headquarters every single day from home now, obviously, but he's in there. Whose mom was directly affected by this? And I'm asking him as of 2 hours ago, what do you know? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Right? Where I see some confusion, back east, and we're seeing it out west here as well, is when you have the mixture of what you're talking about now with public versus private institutions.
Mm-hmm.
The public institution, I think, is going to have a little bit more leeway to put their hands back and say it is what it is.
Yep.
It's what it is, and we can only do what we can do. And it's funny. It's funny because my wife had this Jerry Seinfeld episode on last night, and he did a whole shtick on how the saying he hates most in the world is, it is what it is. Right? It is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be. But I don't think we have any words to describe this, because what we're seeing right now, at least on the West Coast, is when you have that combination of a private institution and a public institution. The public institution is always going to take, in their mind, the high road for protection because of the liability issues.
Mm-hmm.
Private is like, you know what? Our pockets and our well of reserve is only so deep.
Yep.
Like we're going to have to say we got to give her because we can't risk keep going like this.
Yeah.
So like you wonder at what point, enough is going to be enough. And they say it is, again, Jerry Seinfeld's hated line, it is what it is. I don't know. I don't know. I believe, I made a comment to an athletic director this week, and she's a very, very well-known athletic director in San Diego. And she's put together a program called nationaladresource.com. Her name's Amanda Waters. And she's got, I don't know how many hundred of athletic directors across the country getting together at the high school level to talk about this problem. And my thought to her was this, and I wonder if you remember this as a kid, because we're pretty close in age. I remember in Toronto going in to a rink one day, and my mom saw this big sign. It was in red, and it said something, not so much heads up, but it said, update. And what it was, long story short, was a notice to the public person walking in saying, hey, listen, it's important you know that our facility is run on ammonia.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when they came with all the new ways of having rinks and whatnot, right? And ammonia, just like the infomercials you see for pharmaceutical companies, it's linked to headaches, it's linked to stomach ache, blah, 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 right? I shared this with her. And I said to her, we've already gone through, like my generation, the Canadian kid, he's already gone through something like this. And I wonder if that is going to be the key to moving onward. It's that form that says, listen, we're going to do our best to keep it under so many people in the building. We're going to clean every hour. Blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you either feel comfortable coming in or you don't. And I wonder if it's going to be that brings it back. I don't know.
And that's the ultimate discussion, is that, again, like you have an arena that costs you, X amount of dollars to run. And so per hour it costs X. So say for me, it's $300 an hour, right? But I want to have, 30 hours of ice. So, and I need to make X for this and jerseys and insurance and instructors and, and I still want to make it, my biggest flaw is that I actually want to make things affordable for families, right? You shouldn't have to spend $1,000 or $1,500 for hockey. They're not putting a man on the moon here, right? Like this isn't rocket science.
God bless, brother. God bless.
So you factor all that in. Like I know Burnaby Winter Club just opened up their rink. They can have a max with an instructor, 5 people on the ice. Okay, that's $300 an hour. All right. they really like what, and they can't be together. They have to be 6, 10, 15 feet apart or whatever. It's like, what are you learning? But here's my problem is that you're not going to be able to really teach anything because you're not going to get close enough, right? So you're going to be kind of away from a player, but you're going to get to a point where whether you're community or like public owned or privately owned, you're going to have to get, like, I couldn't run a camp with 4 kids on the ice. Like I could, but like I would just donate my time. Right?
It's going to be $1,000 a kid, right?
Yeah,
come the ice bill alone.
Yeah.
Like that's just covering all the things you need to have in place before you can even go on the ice with a bag of pucks.
And the other big one will be insurance policies, right? Like if there's no vaccine, a 7-year-old kid, and I've said this from the very beginning, is that my biggest fear is that they open up, an arena opens up, and heaven forbid, a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old kid gets sick and passes away from COVID. You're never getting insurance for hockey. You're never going to have hockey for the rest of the year. And are you going to be here? Yeah, but
syndrome now with kids now, right? They're in New York City. Have you seen that? The 65 kids who are in the hospital now with parts of their body inflaming. It's scary.
It is, and so, but again, you become this. Everybody's talking about their own personal thought processes of what it's going to be, but nobody has any idea. Right? Like nobody can sit here and go, okay, this is the plan. What the plan may be for Alberta, because they'll come in for us, will not be the same that Montana has. And it will not be the same as BC. It will not be the same as Saskatchewan. It won't be the same in California or New York or Toronto or Texas or Florida, anywhere. So everybody's going to have something different. And so, but that's where a lot of the fear mongering can come in, and the depression. I'm really worried about depression for kids because it's like, oh man, I won't be able to play this year, and then what? And oh my God, and then the whole world starts crashing down around them, and then you go in and throw in isolation on top of it, right? Like it's terrifying what some of these kids are dealing with because they don't want to feel weak and they don't want to feel soft and. You know, they want to tough it through and that's great. But there's also a point where you got to talk about it, right? Because this is so foreign. This isn't like a bad day at school. This is a really messed up way of things, right? Yeah. And so you really worry about the kids because you go on and it's just I was on Twitter earlier and I'm just about done with Twitter. And you got people on there, like people in and around my neighborhood and in my area are like, oh, we should just open it up and see what happens. And, we can't do this. And, you can't. And they just bicker back and forth. And about it should be the extreme or the other, right? But it's like, it's got to come back. We got to get sports back. We got to, there isn't a junior hockey team. Pro teams, the only reason pro teams want to open up is so that they don't have to pay back billions of dollars in TV revenue. That's the only reason. If the TV network said, no, you guys can keep the money, don't worry about it. Because one of the TV contracts has it is that if you have to cancel the season, we get the next season for free.
Oh, wow, man. And see, that might be something that a lot of people just don't know.
You don't know, and so but that's what they're worried about. And players are worried about it too, certainly in hockey, because they wanted a bigger piece of the pie. They wanted a 51-50 split of the revenues. Players getting 51, I think it is, but they have to take escrow, so they get money taken off if they making too much on the side of the money on their side. They got to pay it back, and so they want to get back because next year the salary cap's going to go down. Because revenues will be way lower, and then the owners aren't going to make as much, and they're paying out more to the players, so the players are going to get dinged with escrow, and they're freaked out about it, and so it becomes a money grab. That's all it is, right? Yeah. Like, I want to open because I can give a crap about the money. I honestly could. I don't give a rip on that, but I want the kids in the gym working out. I want them to get rid of some of their frustration. I want to help them get ready. I want to get them kind of working with each other and, quite frankly, against each other in some good competition, because we don't foster that in this environment. We're not fostering that. It's the cower and fear, and certainly I can only attest for what I do, but I don't teach players how to cower in fear. I teach them how to run at things head on and face your fear. Because if you don't, screw you. I don't want you on my team, right? Be mentally stronger. And yeah, it's probably not politically correct and all that garbage, but it's just learn how to be tough, learn how to grind, learn how to get up and dust yourself off and get back in the batter's box, right? And that's what I worry about kids, is that they've lost the social aspect. It's all screen time. There's no more competition in them. It's kind of soft, and so you get a little concerned about that, right? And it's all fear mongering. It's all negative. There's no positive stories out of this.
No.
You're looking at it from a sports spectacle.
No.
The NFL's trying. I mean, they're just making stuff up as they go. Really, the season schedule release party, really, that's a 3-hour TV event.
Well, and you can't even bank on that, right?
No, you can't
even bank on that. But the thing that we have here and you have there too is you're talking about a company that owns bare minimum 3, arguably 4 days of all that you see on television. They own
they're huge.
3 to 4 days of.
That's what everybody's waiting for. That's right. That's what everybody's waiting for. How does the NFL make this work? Right? How do they make it work? And then what can we learn from?
Yeah.
And that's going to be the interesting thing. But to kids listening to this, whether you're in Canada, the US, whatever sport you play, just focus in on you. Really, focus in on you getting better. Because at the end of the day, whether you scout or you want to get recruited, you want to do any of those things, they're going to ask what you did during this crisis. What did you do every day? Keep a journal of what you've done, right? Yeah. Show what you've done. Video what you've done. Show what I've done. This is day 1. This is day 60. This is day 90, whatever it is. Show how competitive you are. One of the cool things about The Last Dance is people are now figuring out that, high-end athletes are they're pretty relentless on how good they want to be, right?
It doesn't die. Fire doesn't die.
Everything. It's not a sometime win. It's an everyday win, right? And
you bring up some amazing points here where you talk about the value of sport and the value of social interaction, the value of training that interaction. And you made a couple of points that a lot of professional Division I junior coaches, elite recreational, elite amateur coaches are saying, and we're noticing a change in today's athlete. And this could be you and I putting on our old varsity jackets from back in the day saying, when I was your age, we ran up the hill going both ways, back and forth to school, right? I guess that the big question I have for you in building the relationships that you do, because you're a huge relationship guy. And I wonder, what are the challenges of working with today's athlete? Because today's athlete is just it's so different, and I went to a conference about 3 years ago in St. Louis, and it was one of these like high level hockey, blah blah blah, whatever. It's the highest level certification and whatever. And they had a guy there that he had a fancy title for his name, but he was a really good speaker, and technically his term is he's the skills and development guy for Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And someone asked him the same question I'm asking you, and his response was, I'm working with this guy, maybe you heard of him, he's not bad with skill. His name is Patrick Kane. and he says, I work with this other guy who's, pretty good too. His name is John Tapes. And he talks about one of the big things that he's had to learn is technology.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I have to get good with being able to use an iPad or texting, right? So that was his help. I'm wondering for you, because you're more of the relationship guy who does the training. What is the challenge for you? What is the challenge working with today's athlete?
I think every coach has to be better with technology. I know I'm trying. We have like a couple iPads or tablets or whatever the hell they're called, but we keep them here so that when we're videoing a guy doing a particular exercise or a particular movement, we can critique it, right? It's crude and it's elementary, but it gives them a visual because they are such visual learners now. Guys, and certainly most males are visual learners anyway, but it's really escalated quite high. So I don't work with a ton of female athletes, but the really high end ones, the ones that I have are really high end. They have kind of the same mentality in terms of wanting the feedback. What I find the players today, and I can only speak to hockey, but I find that the kids today are very much, and every coach says, they want more information. They want more instant feedback. They want the 280 character feedback instantly, right? They that's what they've grown up with. You put something on Twitter and then boom, you're going to get instant comments, right? The problem I find is that they'll want the feedback, and you'll say, okay, what I wanted you to do is go from A to B, and you kind of went from A to C to B, and then the player will go, and then you point it out to the player, and the player will go, yeah, I know, I got it. And I'm like, what do you mean you got it? Right? Like, you didn't get it. So then you have them do it again, and instead of going A to C to B, they would go A kind of, and then they'll deviate a little bit, make a little bit of a correction, not all go all the way to C, but then end up at B. Like, see, I did it. Well, no, you kind of did it. So put it in football terms, you're running a post pattern as a wide receiver. It's like you run down, you make your cut on the post, and then you just stop. Like, look, I did it. Well, kinda. You did 40% of it.
Right.
And so then mentally they move on, right? So I find with them is that with today's player, because of they move and switch from, they don't hold big conversations. They struggle with it. Having them hold their concentration level and going, I need you to do this, but we don't need to do it just 1, 2, or 3 times. We need to do it 50 times and give you different scenarios. So we're going to learn it so that you know it like the back of your hand at a decent pace level. And then we're going to add in some pressure. Then we're going to add in an obstacle. We're going to add in a change of pace or direct. Like we're gonna flower off of the stem. Here's the stem. This is the first segment. Then we're going to add in different variations to it. But I don't find players today have that kind of concentration level. But quite frankly, I don't think coaches have great drills anymore. And I think it's gone into, and I talk to midget coaches about this a lot in midget, where it is really something where they want practice to look like it's busy. Doesn't mean it's good. It just looks busy. So we call them flow drills. So it's looping around and it's cute and it looks great. And then you go, okay. So I always, the parents are like, oh, practice looked great. I'm like, really? What did they learn?
Right.
Like, what do you mean? I'm like, so if the puck goes down into the corner and then it goes over and you're supposed to loop around, the other guy's looping around. Like, tell me how many times your kid did a stop and start. Well, they didn't. Wow, what does the coach always preach to your kids during the game? Stops and starts. So how many times you do it in practice? So I don't find the coaches, not all, but a lot of them, they don't practice what they preach in a game. What they want in a game is not what you practice. But I think the players now, the biggest thing I struggle with is if it's not a set designed camp or a set designed program, they really struggle on their own. So I always ask kids, I'm like, I'll ask 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, okay, when we have a 7 a.m. practice, and it's not 55 below up here, right? In the middle of November or December, but I'll ask them, I'm like, it's a nice day outside. How many of you guys went out the next morning? I'll ask them at our game or practice, whatever we have. How many of you guys went out the outdoor ice? And they're like, well, we didn't. Well, why not? Because I never thought of it. I wanted to be on my iPad. I wanted to hang out by myself. I want to watch Netflix. But I remember coming home, and this is where you get into, oh, yeah, we did this. We didn't have great video games. I had a ColecoVision. It sucked.
You're lucky. You're lucky. I'll tell you this story. Like
Pong, really? Like Cuba?
Let me tell you something. My old man tried to pass off Pong as in television. Do you understand? Like, you don't understand. The thing that he hated most about that thing that he brought home, not only did the game suck with the 2 sticks, but like couldn't throw anything afterwards, right?
No.
You bring up some really.
But I want to finish. I want to finish on this. So I remember we'd have a 7 a.m. practice, and across the street from my house, where I grew up in Red Deer, Alberta, about 2 hours south of where I live now, we had an outdoor rink. But that was our meeting place. And this is what I was thinking about when you asked me to come on the podcast. I was like, our group chat was physically a group at an arena. That was the only way we could get together, right? Like that was our group chat. So we would go out there and we would hang out, and you would hang out with the older kids and some of the younger kids, and you'd be out there 5, 6, 7 hours. Like you get out there at 8:30, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and you would go until 7, 8 o'clock at night. And you maybe run home and grab something to eat, or your parents would bring something. And it would become a social event. Like some of the moms would call or dads would call, hey, let's meet up with the kids and we'll bring them some food and we'll hang out. Okay. But that was our social event, right? Like that was our group chat place. And kids don't do that anymore. It's so rare. Like I build an outdoor rink. My kids now can tie their own skates, but they don't go out and use it enough for how much time and effort and money I put into it. I mean, it's like some of these people build ice palaces in their backyard, right? Like I literally pack snow and freeze it. Like it's not, I'm not laying down tarps and everything, but they don't use it enough. They used it, but not enough. And it was really cold this winter, so I get it. Like it's cold, but it's like, oh, we don't have a skate shack. I had a picnic table. That's what we had. We had a picnic table.
I had a skate shack.
ColecoVision sucked, so you're not going to stay inside. It's like, this is a terrible decision. So you go out and you play. But I mean, I broke my collarbone out there. I broke an arm out there. A buddy of mine wouldn't get out of the way, so I hit him with a puck and he fractured his orbital bone. We were like 10, right? Like those are the war stories you come home with, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have that anymore. Let's wear your helmets everywhere. And I get it. It's all great and everything. But man, we don't force kids to deal with any kind of grit level, right? And we don't force them to grind. You can't fail in school. It's okay. Everybody's this false confidence. It's always a pat on the head, right? Oh, it would go through every coaching conference. I get this one. This is what I hate. This is one of the things I hate. So I was at a coaching conference for, I don't know, some level. And the coaching guy is like, you got to remember, who's coaching girls? And like I put up my hand because my daughter's on my team. It was a co-ed team. We had another girl on the team. So I put up my hand. And he's like, and I knew the guy. And he's like, so how do you teach girls hockey different than boys hockey? I said, I don't. Well, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't. He said, he goes, well, you have to. I said, oh, okay. So, but he's a school teacher, and I knew this. And I said, well, you're a school teacher, right? And he goes, yeah. So how do you teach math differently from boys to girls? He's like, well, I don't. Why? Why don't you teach them differently? Like, like we teach girls hockey that happen, like we teach hockey to girls, right? That that they happen to play hockey, but we want to keep them as little girls. I teach hockey that you're a hockey player that happens to be a girl, right? Like it's the same rules, right? Like yeah, there's a different thought process, but everybody has a different thought process.
Yeah.
But that's just it. We smooth out and we make exceptions and we try and make it easier and everything's positive. I remember coaching my son when he was 5 and I'd ask all the kids, what's the most important thing in hockey? And they'd be like, having fun. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, is it fun when you don't have the puck? And they're like, no. Is it fun when you're not skating really fast? No. Okay, so what's fun? Having the puck and skating fast. And then what is that? That's fun. And then all of a sudden practices become faster and you teach them and but once they get the hang of it, let them go 100 miles an hour. Make a mistake at 100 miles an hour and then we got options. Well, if you're only allowed to screw up at half speed, my God, you'll never get to another level, right?
It's interesting. Like you string together so many good points. And
yeah, I'm wicked awesome.
I love it because you're that little engine, man. That little engine that turns into the Via Rail train. Like this. It's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, like you should make motivational CDs if they even do that anymore.
Oh yeah.
But to be accurate and to be professional, to be honest, like listen to the things that you're talking about. When we talk about challenges, you're talking about today's coach, teacher, they have to understand how kids learn. Mm-hmm. They have to understand how they learn. Not the way they want to learn, but how they learn. And we know that just from teaching 101, right, in basic psychology, we learn 3 different ways. Seeing it, hearing it, doing it, right? And a good coach, I believe, is a good teacher. Because you can hone in on how that girl, that guy wants to be taught. I didn't quite get it. Can you show me again, right? And that could be either demoing or whatever, right? So it's having the relationship so we can develop that rapport so that you can find out, fine tune, how does this kid learn? Mm-hmm. It's being comfortable, getting out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That you can be a more effective teacher because, again, this guy could turn around who was with the Chicago Blackhawks and he can go to these 2 guys who are NHL All-Stars and say, listen, this is how I do what I do. Like it or lump it, right? This is how I do what I do. Yeah. So you guys got to fit into my box. But he didn't do that. He went outside of his box to be a better coach for his athletes. But then on top of that, you also talk about something that I think got glazed over. And you talked about how do we create good lessons so that when I'm teaching in a way that's effective for that kid, that kid is able to extrapolate the information and apply it in different ways.
Yep.
So rather than assuming that the kid understands the lesson, how can we create maybe uglier scenarios, things that don't look good, smell good, feel good? How do we create those scenarios, which are the lessons that will help the kid apply the knowledge we're trying to pass on, right? Get away from the fluff. Let's get more roll your sleeves up hard stuff, right?
Well,
but then at the last point that you made, which I think is so good, like in your sequence is amazing. Getting to know the kid, figuring out how they listen and how they understand, how they learn. 2, number 3, challenging them in different ways to apply that information. But number 4, which I think is so freaking huge, what you said is challenge them. Let bad things happen. Let's see if they can apply the knowledge, right? Let's let them fall down a little bit.
Yeah.
and let them pick themselves back up.
Yeah. And you don't have to correct them every time. Let them go through it 2 or 3 times. But I'll go through this Hockey Canada or even USA Hockey. Okay, so we got 7 minutes for this drill and 4 minutes from this drill, and then you rotate or whatever. And it's like, okay, but if they're not getting it, why the hell would I move on to another drill? Like,
It's so funny.
It's like getting, okay, you got 3 out of 10 on this math test. So next week, we're going to have a harder math test. So good luck, right? Like we take again, we want it to look pretty and have a practice plan. And, and I get all that and that's cute and everything. But I always ask players, and we'll go around the room, what did you learn today? Not just what you got better at today, but what did you learn today? Like, and it could be, and they're like, oh, we learned how to stop, or we learned how to do this, or we learned how to do this. I was like, no. And then I was telling them, like, go a little deeper. And it was like, oh, I learned how to delay. I learned how to fake with my forehand and push a puck. I learned how to 360 spin. I learned how to lean on my edges. I learned that stuff, right? Like really getting them, and these are 7 and 8-year-olds, right? Or 6 and 7, getting them to think really finite. But then you question them on top of that. Okay, what does that mean? You're learning to find your edges. What does that mean? Right? And they got to think, right? But what eventually happens is that those kids come along really quickly because they actually understand what the hell they're talking about.
Well, they understand how to extrapolate the information and apply it.
Yeah. Right? And so they build. And so what I've always said was, I can sit there and pat you on the head and tell you you're doing a great job when you've done a crappy job, right? So I call it false confidence. I'm going to give you false confidence. Great job, Jenny. That was awesome. And Jenny put 0 effort into it. So all I've done is empower Jenny to go, well, no matter how bad I am, I don't need to work very hard to get praise. But then it sends to the other person in line on, oh, I don't have to go very hard either. I'm never going to get in trouble, right?
But your point is ginormous. Your point is ginormous because there are going to be people that will listen to this, and I'd be missed if I didn't say this, that are going to go, well, this guy's talking about dealing with, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, pros, right? And you're not. Because you work with kids, your kids, and
I coach for
a fact. But the people who are going to throw rocks at you are the ones that say, "Well, what about the positive encouragement? What about building up the confidence?"
Right.
But what I hear you saying is something completely different. I hear you saying something where you are addressing confidence, you are building their self-esteem up, but you're doing it in a more accurate and scientific way by being genuine, by being focused, laser focused on a point.
This is what I always tell people. Is that if you're married or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, right? How many times do you tell your wife you love her?
Oh.
All the time, right?
Ooh, we're going to deep water.
How many times do you really mean it, right?
Dude, I gotta put my floaties on.
I tell my wife all the time I love her, but it's almost like it's just a regurgitation, right? I love her with more than anything in the world, but it's like, yeah, I love you. Okay, it's like a high five. It's not deep. So, but when a kid accomplishes something, we're over the moon. We're like, did you see that? Did you see what you did? Did you see what you accomplished? And these are 7-year-olds, or my daughter's team that's 9 and 10. Did you see what you just did? Right? And I always tell kids, and I'm a loud guy, right? And I'm a pretty intense guy. Like I kind of go this is the longest I've gone
for the church league kind of guy.
That's what I've gone without swearing, right? But I'll with my really young kids, with my son's team, it was like the first rule we taught him is, what's the first thing you do when you get the puck? And the kids are like, you shoot it away or you shoot it up the board. I'm like, no. The first thing you do is move your feet. So we would create drills just based on that. Because hockey's more fun. I said, do you like hockey with or without the puck? With the puck. So why do you get it? And the first thing you do is shoot it away to go get it back. Right. That's insane. It's an insane theory. Yeah. So we would teach them, attack the puck, hunt pucks. We called it hunting pucks. You hunt pucks. I don't care about your position. You're 7. I don't care. We're not doing a left wing lock. We're not locking it down. I said,
I love it. Pin
your ears back and we're hunting pucks, right? We go hard after it. And when you get it, you do not stand still. You move. And everybody scored on our team and everybody had a great time. And we were fun to play against. Like, we smashed some teams. I felt bad, right? Like, we beat a team. Like, I did keep score one time, and it was like the only time I kept score. We beat a team like 63-0.
Oh, you're evil.
Like, it was
evil.
bad.
You're
right?
evil.
Like, I felt guilty, right? And it was 4-on-4, and it's half ice, right? But we just absolutely decimated the team just because we would hunt pucks, and they would stand still and kind of pass it over. And I was like, no, hunt the puck, start skating, and then when you get into this situation, I want you to pass it over here. Right? Or you can skate, give them options. So we start to create more of a thought process, not just shoot it off the boards and go get it. Right? Or still. It's like, nobody likes that. And you look at kids and they're bone dry at the end of it, and nothing's happened for them. But you talk to kids and you go, you get 2 or 3 praises about things you actually accomplish, regardless of it. But if I keep going to kids, hey, really good job, 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 you're really good. They didn't do it all perfect.
Yeah, no. But more importantly, the substance and the strength of that compliment is completely lost.
It means something. It's because they did it. Yeah. It's not just me patting them on the head going, nice work, Jenny. And then I'm just skating off. It's like, did you see what I did? Did you see what you did?
Yeah.
That is so much better. You see the difference? And then they get that cognitive reaction of going, okay, this is good. Now, it works. I have found it works on 95% of kids. The other 5% don't want to play the sport. That's fine, right? And that's good. But as long as you're getting exercise, I'm not going to have it. Like, I always tell the older kids, like my daughter's team, I'm like, if I'm yelling at you, that means I care.
Right.
When I stop yelling at you, and I'm not yelling profanities at them or anything like that, but if I've stopped yelling at you, it's probably because I've quit on you.
Yeah. Right? You've let me know that this is not for you.
Yeah. This is whatever way. We've tried it the easy way, we've tried it the hard way, we've tried it the informative way, we've tried it the encouraging way, we've tried it every which way. But you quite clearly do not react well to any of this. So this is probably not the sport for you.
Exactly.
And that's fine. But like with the older guys, we get such a great reaction out of guys when I have guys come up to me that they will say, hey, you didn't yell at me today. Are you mad at me? Like, have you?
You didn't yell at me. Are you mad?
And it wasn't like yelling you're garbage or anything like that, right? It's more like, hey, instead of pivoting that way, you got to go this way, and being intense about it. Like, it does matter, right? And as you can tell, I can get worked up on this stuff, right? And so, but it's like, because I'm paying attention to you doing your job. Right? And these guys want to get drafted to the NHL, Division I scholarships, drafted to the Western Hockey League, drafted to the NHL, go play in Europe, whatever it is, right? Sign a pro deal, right? Like, they want that feedback, but what I find is that the really good ones want to be pushed. Okay, instead of this, do that. Instead of that, do that. Add in another layer. Once you got this down, I want to add in another layer. I want to create something new. But we don't do that until they're 16 or 17. And this is something I put to the listeners. You tell me, whatever sport you're in, you tell me, do you get faster or better after the age of 18, right? Like I know in hockey, if you're 18 years old, you're probably not going to be faster at 30, right? You're not going to be faster at 25 or 26, right? Like it's just human evolution. It's just natural. You're going to get slower, right? Your mechanics aren't going to get better. Malcolm Gladwell calls it the golden age of learning. What you learn between the ages of basically 8 to 13, depending on girl or boy. So it fluctuates a year each way for a girl and a boy. But he calls it the golden age of learning because that's the age where you can take instruction and not feel sad, right? And feel kind of bullied, right? Start crying. You can understand self-correction. You can understand self-determination, and you can but you can still work at it without being exhausted because you have some muscle structure, right? But so if you have a bad skating stride between the ages of 8 and 13, I'm going to tell you something. When you're 17, you're still going to be a bad skater. You might clean it up a little bit, but you're still going to be bad.
The muscle memory will have seeped in.
It's just, you can't. It's like every quarterback that doesn't make it in the NFL. Tim Tebow can't throw. He can throw in college. Terrible release in the NFL, right?
It's interesting because, some of the things that you're sharing right now are like beyond golden nuggets, right? And we're going to have a lot of athletes listen to this. And when they're listening to this, right, with all of the information you're sharing with them, as for their parents and other people who are sports enthusiasts that listen to us, I want to really hone in on something here. And I guess my point that I want to hone in is, as you're educating people on this, talk a little bit about what athletes might be assuming they know but don't know. There are things that they miss along the ways as they're moving on in sport. Some of the things that they maybe not give enough credit to, or things that maybe they just don't know is of value when you're, assessing them down the road.
Yeah. One of the, again, I know you gave me that question earlier, and I was really thinking about it. And one of the things I can speak, like in football and baseball, like baseball's a little bit like hockey that way. NBA certainly, well, even now you still got to play 1 year of college, right? With like in hockey, with the draft of 17-year-old kids, you got 18-year-old kids playing in the NHL, right? And it's not rare. Like it's pretty common. 18, 19 years old, you're in the NHL, and that's a lot like college basketball in going into the NBA. Not a lot of 18-year-olds in Major League Baseball, right? They'll be in the minors, but they're not going to be in the big leagues. And in college football, you can't go until you're 20, I think it is, or turning 21. Right. But one of the things I find that players really struggle with is the process, right? Like understand the same thing when we go to the practice, right? Like A to B, but you went to C. Yeah, no, I got it. I understand. No, you don't, because you just did it, right? You're still screwing it up. It's okay, so I'm 14, I get drafted to the Western Hockey League. I play 1 year in midget, then I go to the Western League. If I don't go to the Western League at 16, I get a Division I scholarship. I play 1 year midget triple, and then I go play junior at 16 or 17 years old. And then I play 2 years of junior, and then I go to college. I play 4 years or 3 to 4 years of college, hopefully graduate early, and then go play pro. Okay. 90% of that's not going to work. Right?
Why? But why? Yeah, I read that somewhere.
I saw it on Twitter. One of my friends did it. So I want to do that. Okay, well, you're not your friend, right? Like everybody's got a different path. And nobody wants to have that path, but it's the urgency. Parents are like that. I deal with parents now who I love to death, but it's kind of this fatalism. Oh my God, the whole world's over. I got a kid. There's a kid, and he'll listen to this and his parents, and I can kind of give the parents crap a little bit about it, but they're like, he got drafted late, but he's a really smart kid. He got drafted late in the Western League. He's probably should have been drafted really early, right? Drafted late in the Western League. I had a school come out and look at him in midget, his first year midget, his first game of the season, actually. They came out and watched 4 shifts are like, he's the only kid that can skate. We'll take him. This is our offer. They didn't even stick around to the end of the game to offer it to him. They're like, yeah, you can offer it to him. I'm like, what? So the coach met with the parents, gave him the deal, and then he left, right, to basically fly back home to the Northeast. And the parents are like, Pete, you got to tell him. I'm like, nah. I found him after the game. They're cooling down. I'm like, you got to come with me. So I grab him and I'm like, your parents want to tell you something. And his parents told him, like, hey, they just offered you a scholarship, a really good offer, right? Division I, the coach isn't even there. The coach wants to know that if you'll take it, basically think about it for 48 hours and let me know. Okay, fine. So 15 years old, right? Been 15 for about 2 months at that time, right? Really young. Plays midget, makes midget AAA, has a decent year, in midget AAA. And then, okay, we want him to play junior next year. So I get him a team in BC. And as a 16-year-old, and that's a hard league to play in at 16. It's a good hockey league. Right? He's on a powerhouse team, but it's a really good setup for him. So he goes and plays there. Has a decent year. Plays again this year. Has a great year. At one point, the hottest player in the league. Ends up getting hurt twice. Misses playing for Team Canada Junior A. Just 2 really bad timing injuries. And he probably would have been drafted this year, right? But it's like, it's this fatalism with, oh my God, he's not playing well enough. He's not getting 10 points a night. He's not doing this. He's not. And it's like, relax. He's still the youngest kid on the team. And he's been there this is his 2nd year. He's still the youngest kid on the team. He could still play 3 more years of junior, right? And it's like, enjoy it. They just enjoy it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, it works. But we're so more about you're not performing, and we're so much more about, oh my God, what is everybody else doing, that we don't enjoy the ride, right? We don't enjoy the process, right? Like, I have kids that their parents will go out and see them play like 60% of the games, and they're not in town, right? I don't understand that. I had parents who couldn't make it to my games in minor hockey, and they had a drive. Right? Yeah. My mom came and saw me play my very first pro game. She saw me play my very first pro game and left before the game was over because she had to catch a flight home. Right? My dad didn't even see me play professional hockey till the 2nd year, right? Because they're busy, right? My dad saw me play one time in junior, and then I played in Vegas, and he's like, "This is the only place I've ever wanted to come." Right? It was it.
They have a good snack shack here. I like their snack shack.
Yeah, exactly. But it was that, right? Like but now you got parents that. But I think that's part of it too, right? Like,
you put a really good point on it. Like again, to sum up your incredible insight and the nugget again that you're giving people is enjoy the process, and enjoying the process. What that tells me as well is you're showing the passion.
Yeah,
you're showing the passion, because to me, I think you obviously have to have the skill set to prove to anybody that you're able, not even worthy, just able to move on. But you're touching base on right now that I think is so huge. And it's something that I hear every single coach bring up in one way or another. If I talk to 20 coaches in different sports, just this week alone, easy, 80% of the conversations I've had, the same word came up again and again and again, and that was compete.
Yeah.
And what you can tell when you've had enough of these conversations and been around these people long enough, and you just know the know. If you don't have the skills and you don't have the ability, you're not going to be even looked at. We know that.
Yeah.
But that defining thing that you're saying in a nice way, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride, to me, says enjoy the process of competing.
Yes, exactly.
Enjoy that. Go
Yeah.
back to the roots of when you're coaching the little kids and saying, let's go hunt pucks. Let's
Yeah.
enjoy going 100 miles an hour. Let's enjoy holding on to the puck. Let's enjoy the work. Let's enjoy
Yeah.
that. If you can enjoy the ride and continue
Yeah.
to apply that lesson that coach gave you when you were a little kid, to me, that's showing passion, it's showing
Yeah.
intensity, and it's showing compete.
Yeah.
Can you compete?
But that's life, right? Like that's,
Aye,
you want to be a
aye.
CEO, you gotta, the people are going to ask you in a job interview, what have you overcome, right? Like what are some big issues you've had to deal with,
Well,
right?
yeah, a challenging moment in your life.
Yeah.
How did you deal with it? It's
Right.
ranked in the top 10 of interview questions. But
Yeah.
you,
And a lot of kids don't know how to answer that, right? You move away from home at 16 years old, that's a huge thing. People don't understand how hard that is. And
oh,
then it's news, and kids don't move around very much anymore, right?
well,
So you're not moving. I was born in Montreal, lived in Sarnia, lived in Red Deer. I went to junior high with different kids, and I went to elementary school with. I went to two different junior highs in Edmonton, and and then I played junior hockey after that. So I went to five different high schools. But you would talk to kids now, and moving like 8 feet from where they were born is a significant move, right?
it is, right?
But now a kid moving away from home is a big deal, right? It's like, oh man, I don't know how many times I go visit my kid. I'm like, Christmas? Like, I don't get it, right? And that's on me. Like I come from a different family and in terms of that stuff, but that 16-year-old that got the scholarship, right? Or 15-year-old when he got a scholarship, he's had a really good career, and he's going to be a very good hockey player, and he's going to have a great college. He's built for college. The problem is that he's growing up with a group of people that have had an easier time, right? He's had to grind for it a little bit, but he's also a better student than those kids,
Mm,
and
huge.
so he puts a lot of effort into a lot of stuff, right? And so it's like, but he plays in a harder league.
Right.
And so it's something where the school's exceptionally happy with the way he's playing. They want him to play more, but it's one of those things where, yeah, it might take him an extra year. Okay, who cares? But it becomes a little bit of ego. It becomes ego on parents who's like, oh, they're bragging about their kid and they're bragging about their kid. I'm like, who cares?
Who cares?
You don't like the people anyway, so who gives a rip?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's what I don't understand about people. Like, that's one thing I'll say in hockey. And I don't know what it's like in other sports. Imagine it's exactly the same. The amount of false friendships you have, and this probably getting me a lot of hate mail, but the amount of false friendships there are in like, I can certainly speak to hockey. Like, it is terrifying. I'll get people that will talk to me and go, I hate that person. I can't stand their kid. I don't like that parent. That they're crazy. They're just nuts. Okay, I don't really care, right? I said,
Well,
all right. But then the next weekend, you'll see that person that just told me that sitting with those people, right? Being, oh yeah, great. I'm like, what? But in that car ride home, going, oh man, I can't stand those parents, or I can't stand those kids, right?
What's so huge about what you're saying, right? And this is a lesson for everyone to kind of tune into. My mom used to say this to me when I would get into those modes, right? Because someone really smart, someone really wise, who first started giving us hockey information,
Yeah.
started explaining to my mother a couple things. One, you're playing a sport where it's the only sport that you can't run out of bounds.
Yeah.
So be careful who you say and what you do, because it will come back to you. Number one. But number two, it's the only sport on the planet with youth that you can get traded.
Yeah.
It's the only sport on the planet, and people don't know that. But
No.
it tied into my mom's, when she really understood that, right, and came over the anxiety of where could this go for her little one, right?
Yeah.
She would apply life lessons away from hockey, away from sport to sport. And she'd say things like this: be careful of the asses that you kick on your way up, because one day
Yeah.
it could be the asses that you have to kiss to
Yeah.
make it back. And,
Yeah.
and this is where people just don't, they don't understand that, right? They don't get it. And it amazes me that it's like that, because what I see less and less of is that, I live in this town, I grew up in this town, I play for this town and only this town.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's soccer, baseball, hockey, football, whatever, right? Like, I mean, how many ticker tapes I've seen in the past 5 weeks alone on ESPN of guys entering their senior year transferring to another school. I can't count them. So when you have that mentality of, oh, I'm going to go chase a letter, or I'm going to go chase a uniform or whatever, right? How you could embody that, knowing that you could be playing with that, down the road, it just doesn't, it blows my mind. But anyhow, out my softball. I got one more question for you, because I've taken this hostage for a while now.
I'm going to have to get the wheels off of this thing.
So I got to tell you, again, one of the things that I love with you and I is we're passionate about what we do and who we do it with. And it's not like we're out there doing it with our kid per se. But I say to you, with all the things that we've talked about, and they cross over in every sport, if you could change one thing about sports as we know it, what would you do? What would it be?
Well, there's lots, but I can't be the czar of all sports just yet. So I'm working on it. I have a plan together. It's aggressive, but I'm working on it. Got to have a lot of moving parts. But one of the things, and what's funny about that question is, an old teammate of mine lives in Philly. He does some skill work stuff in Philly. So he works with some high end guys out of there, but his specialty is shooting, right? And he gave me a call on Monday actually, and he's like, just want to check in, see how you're doing and stuff, and we always end up talking about hockey and what we're doing and how he's doing, and because it's crazy. Like, I haven't seen him since 2001. And we've been friends ever since, right? First time we ever met, I beat the wheels off him in a fight. Got traded to me traded back to my team in Nashville like the next week. But
how scary, right? Like, how apropos that story is from what we just spoke about, right? You can't make that up.
Yeah, no, literally, we fought twice, and then in that game, and then he got traded to the team. And we were best friends, right? So it's crazy, but we were talking, and he's like, you know what I really can't stand, and I was thinking about this too. He goes, I can't stand the verbiage in sports from all these skill guys, and I'm like, oh, you have no idea how much it pisses me off. But like, I'll take one from football. So this is from a football guy. So this is a picture, and I don't want to show the guy's name or anything, but basically, it's two kids about 12 years old, and they're just basically playing kind of tag, right? The only two kids on this huge indoor facility. So they're paying for it, right? Probably $800. And this is what it says, verbatim. This is what it says. Here's a strategy we use to introduce decision-making, exploration, and creativity. All of our activities include a human stimulus, but a tactic we follow early on is to limit the amount of kinematic info and utilize a generic stimulus to challenge perceptual cognitive abilities. Okay, you name me a 10-year-old that understands that. Like, that's what
not even Doogie Howser could understand that.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? But my buddy Jeff Frankel's his name in Philly. And he brought up a great point. He goes, I have 2 family members with cancer. He goes, the last thing I want is a doctor to come in and rattle me off all the cancer problems in cancer terminology.
Oh my God, yes.
Like, I don't want that. He goes, explain it to me so I understand. I did not go to medical school. I am not a practicing medical doctor, right? And I'm like, that's a great way of putting it. And it's true. Like, we use such verbiage to make ourselves seem so, in my business, to seem so more self-important. I understand what they're doing, but nobody understands it. But it sounds cool. But you can charge more because you can talk like that. But do you think those 10-year-olds understand that?
Well, let me just say this, right? You know, when I ask you that question, it's amazing because you wouldn't know this, but you have just hit out of the park for me this topic that I've had in classes that I've taught in hockey, and it comes back to verbiage. Like, I've never even understood the verbiage that we use in the game of hockey. And as a goalie, maybe it's because I'm hypersensitive, right? But two guys come down the ice. One guy's got the puck. I have a defenseman and myself in net. Why is that a 2-on-1?
Yeah.
How is it not a 2-on-2?
Yeah.
When we're shorthanded, the other team has 5 guys on the ice and we have 4 guys and a goalie. Isn't that still 5 guys playing against 5 guys? Never could understand that.
Yeah.
Never could understand that, right?
Yeah.
But those guys who came up with that terminology, they're the same guy who says, well, you know, in the playoffs, the most valuable guy is the guy we don't even talk about on a 2-on-1 all year long. Or the guy we don't talk about on the penalty kill all year long, right? So maybe this is all the therapy that I've gotten as a goalie coming on now. It comes back to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You understand the words coming out of my mouth, right? Like, what are we talking about? It's the verbiage of what.
That's the thing. Like, Einstein talks about, to really know a subject is to be able to explain it to a layman, and that they could understand. So my greatest way of looking at it is, you know, the TV show Nova on PBS?
Yes.
Right? So Neil deGrasse Tyson's on it a lot. So they can explain to somebody who loves Nova and loves science but is not a scientist, they can explain evolution, they can explain the Big Bang Theory, they can explain black holes, they can explain quantum physics to a person like me. Okay, but I got this clown out here talking about literally the most nonsensical way of playing tag there is, but I want to charge you $700 for my awesomeness, right?
I love it. That's
what kids fall for, and that's what parents fall for, right? Like, people always rip me like, oh, on your Twitter you always have a spelling mistake. I'm like, yeah, that's because when I tweet something, mentally, I've already moved on halfway through the tweet. Like, this is all muscle memory at this point. I've moved on.
I love you, buddy. We're the same. We're the same. We are the same.
At the end of the day, I don't look at the comments. I move on. I don't need some troll. If you got a problem, call me. My number's on the website. Give me a call. Yeah. Right?
God bless you.
But people want to be, you know, Twitter tough guys, right? Oh, that's a garbage comment, or that's a garbage lift, or whatever. I'm like, all right, I don't know who you are, nor do I care. Right? You're not in my life, nor if I need you to help me move, will you help me move? I don't care.
So you're double useless to me, right? You're double useless. And it's so funny. I gotta cut you off.
No, just hold on. You can't come to my house with your micro mini car and take my house plant. Like, I need something more, right? But I'll give you another one. This is from a hockey guy. So the last one's a football guy. So this is a hockey guy, right? From Change of Direction Skills for Hockey by so-and-so, right? Strength training for sports performance should be coordination training with resistance. Training shouldn't be maximizing loading with secondary consequences, such as reducing the rotational ability of athletes. I understand what they're saying. Don't get stiff when you lift, right? Don't get so strong that you lose all your range of motion, right? Like, it's absolutely mind-numbing. I would put something like that. I would want somebody to come over to my place and beat the wheels off me for being an idiot, right? I can't stand it. People are just, but they fall for it. And I feel bad for people. I can only imagine what it's being like for a quarterback, right? The quarterback specialization, the wide receiver stuff and all that. And it's just like, So my buddy sent me one where it was quite funny because he sends me one where he was showing me the he sends me one of the things from a coach's site. Spacing makes ice less crowded, giving attackers a singular check to beat instead of multiple ones. So at a place on spreading the defense to create scoring chances. So this comes from an NHL guy, and so I texted back, "You mean open ice and don't follow the puck?" He's like, "Getting open, new concept." He goes, "That's from an NHL player." Like, that's what it is. Get open. Don't stand around people, right? But we want to put bows and ribbons and put it on a video and use this all stuff. But I always ask kids, how many games you watch? Like, how many games? You're a football player. How many games of football do you watch? And what are you watching? Basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey. I always ask kids, what are you watching? Like, I'll take little clips off my phone with the TV. That's about as intricate as I get in video, right? But I'll rewind it and I'll record on my phone and I'll send it to the guys. I'm like, "Hey, what do you guys see here?" Because I want their response, right?
What do you see?
And they're like, "Oh yeah, I never saw that. Yeah. That's what we do in our morning skates, or that's what we do. Like that. That's what this exercise." Or I'll ask, "What exercise translates to this net outcome on the ice?" "Oh, when we do that exercise, or we do this." But those guys aren't all in on this, right? They want to do it by video, and they want to do it easy. They want to get 8 of you out there, or get 2 of you out there and charge you $1,000 and use cool terminology. And it's like, right? Like we've come to a point in society where we want to justify what we charge to do what we do.
Yes.
Right? If we can charge more, it's not hard for me to go and get a really high-end kit. It isn't. It usually sucks because they're usually not a great worker, right? You can get a high-end kit, but most of them don't pan out, right? So I want kids that, want to work and learn and get challenged and challenge me, right? I don't want a kid just, I don't care, right? It doesn't matter. But they really struggle with, like, "Oh, well, if I got so-and-so, if I get player X who's one of a high-end kid, I look like a champion because I put him in whatever, or I did this, or I did that." Like, I got a kid a scholarship. So at the end of the year, this year, so I called the school and I said, "This is a really good player." The coach called the kid, watched some videos, like, "Yeah, we'll take him." I'm like, "Great, here's his number, call the kid off him." At the end of the kid's meeting, as exit meetings with his coach, so the kid calls and goes, "What should I ask?" You go, "Ask what schools he's called for you. He's had you for the entire year, new coach, entire year. You're a good player. What schools has he called?" This is what the coach says. So kid asks him, exit meeting, end of the year, no more games, right? Playoffs over, everything. Kid asks, "Coach, I just out of curiosity, what schools have you called for me?" He goes, "Well, what schools are you interested in?" Like, "What?"
You're kidding.
Goes, "Well, what I'm going to do is next week I'll put some videos together and we'll send them out to schools." And I'm like, right there's your problem. But you know what? When he announced his commitment, man, that team was really, really high on, announcing that he was committed, right? They did zero work for him, zero. But that's the thing. So I talked to a lot of these kids, but when the coach talks to them, they'll use verbiage like character and determination and sacrifice, and they'll use stuff that they have no intention of helping you. They're not going to be determined to help you. They're not going to sacrifice 1 minute of time to help you, right? They're not going to do any of that. But that whole verbiage thing, if I could change verbiage, like add in honesty, right? Add in honesty. There's some great coaches out there. Don't get me wrong. There's some really good ones and guys I really respect. And there's a whole bunch I couldn't care less if they're ever involved in the game. And that's fine. And that's not a big deal. But, you know, and I don't get along with everybody. But just because I don't get along with you doesn't mean I don't think you're a good coach. I can separate artists from art, right?
Yes.
But the verbiage teams use and the fear mongering and this sounds really cool. Oh, God, it's so bad. And it drives me nuts because it confuses kids. You're using, and most of the guys don't even use the words correctly, which really pisses me off. And I'm not a wordsmith, but I'm reading that going, really? That makes sense? Did you read that? Because I never reread my tweets. But you spend a lot of time doing that, and that's the thing that you think is going to attract, but people fall for it. It's a sales pitch, right? It's the car Corinthian leather. Remember that? They made it up, right? It's a made-up word. The car industry made it up because it sounds cool.
Corinthian leather, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a place. It's not a thing. It's just leather, right? But we don't take into effect, oh, it sounds cool, it's flash. Okay, what's your substance? And I would tell any player, whether you're any sport, look for substance. Don't look on social media for substance. Find who's going to help you. I can't help every kid, and I get that. You can't help everybody, and I get that. But there's other really good people out there, and there are far too many people out there who just want your money. When I always tell kids, you want to go train at that other place? Fine. If you get cut on that Sunday and you're sitting in the parking lot in God knows where, Alberta, BC, or Saskatchewan, who's the first guy you're going to call when you get cut on Sunday and you don't have a place to play? The guy you're training with spending $1,200 a month? Because he doesn't know anybody. Let me guess. Your first call is going to be to me because you're going to need help now, right? And that's what I tell kids. I'm like, don't call me when you get cut.
Right.
Because you want it easy. Because I will not risk my reputation on your laziness. Right?
It's amazing. Like the words that you're sharing right now, buddy. It's just as much of oh God, a ton of information being given to the athlete as is to the parent, right? And educating the parent. Yeah. You know, buddy, I can say this to you. We're definitely going to do this again. Definitely. Sure. I can already see the comments that we're going to get doing this. And one of the things that we definitely got to get you hooked up with is with my colleague Peter to do the Instagram Live. And sure. You actually would have been an interesting one yesterday. He had the owner of this really cool facility in Burlington, Ontario. That's an MMA gym. Nice. And this guy is tough as nails. He's a great guy, and he's up and down with the UFC. And having you as a part of the things that he was talking about, I said, oh my god. Yeah. Well, buddy, listen, I gotta say thank you so much for today. We're gonna do this again. And I can't thank you enough. And you know how much I love you. Thank you.
Yeah. No. Hey, and if any of your listeners have any questions or whatever, they need any help with anything, Steve at theinsideedge.net or theinsideedge.net, you can get a hold of me. And then whatever I can do to help, I'll always help, right? But at the end of the day, just grind. Worry about you and grind. And if you can do that, if you don't find the sacrifice fun, nothing's going to work. But if you do, there is a payoff. Whatever that is, there is a payoff.
God bless you. You're the best. I love you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Okay.
Bye.